Ava Ramirez had traded the shadows of global espionage for the sun-scorched dust of southern Arizona. After 20 years in the CIA, she wanted peace. Her ranch sprawled across 500 acres of rough terrain, surrounded by cacti, silence, and the war dogs she'd trained. Elite canines bred for war, retired from battlefields, but never defanged. Each dog had a story. Ghost, the silent German shepherd with a taste for stealth. Valkyrie, a Belgian Malinois with unmatched aggression. And Tank, the mastiff-built bruiser who could tear through sheet metal. Ava didn't just train them, she trusted them with her life. But peace is never owed to people like her. It started with a drone. Buzzing like a mosquito, it hovered briefly above the ranch, scanning, transmitting. Ava noticed. Ghost noticed first. A low growl vibrated in his throat. Within hours, strange tire tracks marred the dirt road, fresh. Then the fences were cut, cameras disabled. She found 2 of her outer security sensors melted, hacked. The message was clear: we're coming. The cartel wanted her land. It was perfect for trafficking routes and drone drops, and Ava had said no. At 3:17 a.m., they came. 2 black SUVs kicked up dust and burst through the gate. Gunmen, masked, armed, and cocky, poured out. They expected an ex-agent, maybe some rifles. What they didn't expect were trained war dogs in coordinated formation. Ava was already in her element. Dressed in tactical gear, night vision goggles on, she gave the signal with a whisper: Valkyrie, flank. Ghost, silent kill. Tank, hold the line. The darkness exploded. Valkyrie hit first, a blur of teeth and fury, dragging a cartel gunman screaming into the brush. Ghost emerged behind another, his kill silent and quick. Tank burst through the side of the barn like a living battering ram, colliding with a group of men trying to flank the house. Ava moved like a ghost herself, carving paths between them, taking down a gunman with a suppressed pistol, disabling another with a strike to the throat. The cartel boss, El Sombra, had underestimated her. Watching from a distance in a third vehicle, he saw his men fall, one after another, to dogs, and a woman with the instincts of a predator. He tried to retreat. Ava was faster. She'd mounted an ATV with Valkyrie beside her and gave chase through the rocky terrain. The moon lit the path, and within minutes she rammed his truck. Valkyrie launched through the broken window. Screams echoed into the canyon. By dawn, the bodies were gone, taken by the feds Ava had discreetly tipped off. The ranch was intact. Her dogs, bruised but alive, surrounded her like sentinels. The only thing left behind was a cartel flag, riddled with bullet holes, nailed to a post with a single message scrawled in blood-red paint: "We hunt too." Epilogue. News didn't cover what happened that night. The desert buried secrets like bones. But down south, in the cartel circles, a name was whispered: La Loba de Guerra, the werewolf. And they knew that ranch wasn't just guarded by dogs. It was guarded by death on 4 legs, and a woman who taught them how to kill. The sun rose over a broken gate, shattered windows, and blood-soaked sand. Ava walked the perimeter with Ghost and Valkyrie flanking her, each step methodical. The silence was deceptive, not peaceful, but waiting. She found signs, boot prints from a second team that never attacked. A fallback unit? Backup? Ava narrowed her eyes. They were testing me. Inside her bunker, a converted underground weapons cache from her CIA days, she reviewed surveillance drone footage. She recognized one face despite the mask. Colonel Alejandro Ruiz, ex-Mexican Special Forces, now a mercenary working for El Sombra. He had trained with her once in Panama. She remembered his eyes, cold, intelligent, brutal. She knew what this meant. Round 1 was just the opening act. By noon, Ava called in her ace, Jonas Maddox, former Navy SEAL turned smuggler hunter. He owed her his life, and when she said, "I need you," he arrived in 6 hours with gear, guns, and his own K9, a scarred Doberman named Reaper. They turned the ranch into a fortress. Booby traps were laid. Perimeter mines hidden in brush. The dogs were equipped with microcams, body armor, and earpieces linked to Ava's command rig. She didn't just train dogs. She commanded them like a general commands soldiers. And she knew the next wave would come at night. Cartels love the dark. But so did Ava. 10:45 p.m. The attack began with fire. Molotovs rained onto the barn. Drones dropped homemade explosives on water tanks and solar panels. A scream from the eastern fence. The first trap had sprung. Jonas called it over comms. 2 trucks. 10 men minimum. Moving fast, Ava didn't hesitate. She whispered into her mic, "Ghost, intercept south. Valkyrie, east wall breach. Tank, barn perimeter. Reaper, with me." What followed wasn't a gunfight. It was a hunt. The war dogs struck like demons. Ghost dragged a man through the dust and vanished with him. Valkyrie ambushed two more, leaping from the roof, ripping through Kevlar. Reaper pinned a man to the truck's hood, while Jonas took his head off with a clean shot. Ava moved through the chaos with terrifying calm, her silencer coughing in the dark. She put a bullet through a sniper's eye before he even found his target. In the chaos, Ruiz appeared. He'd entered through the North Ridge with elite shooters. He wasn't after territory now. He wanted her. They met in the corral, both covered in dust and death. Ava had her rifle aimed at him. He smiled. "You train dogs," he said in Spanish. "But who trained you to be death?" Her reply was a whisper. "I trained death to follow me." She clicked her tongue once. Tank exploded from the shadows behind Ruiz, knocking him to the ground. He screamed. Ava approached, gun raised. Ruiz, bleeding from his throat, rasped out, "He'll never stop. El Sombra wants you. Your land. Your dogs. He wants revenge." Ava shot him once. Cold, clean. No last words. Just silence. The next day, the ranch was still standing. Barely. But Ava was alive, and her dogs sat at her feet like gods of war. She made one call. "Director Keene, I'm invoking Protocol Theta." The voice on the line froze. "You sure, Ramirez? I've got a cartel boss operating like a warlord. I've got black market drones, mercenaries, and intel leaks. I'm done playing defense." Pause. "What do you need?" Ava stared out at the desert. "Give me my old file back, and sanction my unit." 3 days after the second raid, Ava's ranch resembled a war zone. Blackened soil, buried mines, spent shell casings, and claw marks on truck doors. Every inch told a story. A warning. But Ava wasn't waiting anymore. Protocol Theta, a covert CIA clause meant for off-the-books operations, granted her limited clearance, satellite access, and a ghost ops budget. She reassembled her unit, not just war dogs. People. Outcasts. Veterans. Ghosts. Jonas. Reaper. Mouse, a drone specialist kicked out of the NSA. Doc Rios, an ex-medic who stitched bodies in war zones and bar fights. And Ava's oldest K9. Echo, a scarred Malinois retired after surviving Syria and a car bomb. Deaf in one ear. Still deadly. Their target? A stronghold in Sonora, a fortress El Sombra had turned into a trafficking hub and base of operations. Crossing the border wasn't hard when the CIA looked the other way. Ava used black market routes she'd once dismantled in her old life. Poetic. The team traveled in an armored RV retrofitted for stealth. The dogs rode in silence, trained to rest in chaos. Ghost, Echo, Valkyrie, Reaper, Tank. They were more than dogs. They were her army. Each had a mission, a role. Inside the RV, Mouse projected drone footage of the cartel compound. Steel walls, 20 guards minimum, 2 towers, and what looked like a K9 pit. Ava frowned. "They're training dogs." Jonas tilted his head. "That's new." "No, that's bait." They arrived at 2 a.m. under cover of a sandstorm. "Perfect." Mouse scrambled the compound's comms. Doc prepped sedatives for the dogs inside. Ava didn't want to kill innocent animals trained by monsters. Ava slipped through the shadows like memory. Valkyrie followed close, then peeled off as planned. They breached the compound's western wall with a thermite torch. Inside was hell. Cages. Emaciated dogs, scarred, snarling, trained for violence, not loyalty. Ava's dogs spread out, controlled through coded gestures and scent markers. Within minutes, the war dogs had neutralized 4 guards without firing a shot. Then came the alarm. They'd been spotted, and El Sombra was ready. The doors to the central pit opened, and out came Sombra's creation. A massive Rottweiler, augmented. Spiked collar, metal-plated armor, and high on a drug cocktail that made its eyes red. It locked onto Ghost. Ava's voice sliced the air. "Ghost, flank left. Echo, intercept." Ghost darted, precise. The Rottweiler lunged. Echo met it midair. The sound of snarls and snapping jaws filled the compound. Ava raised her rifle, not at the dogs. At Sombra, who stood on the upper catwalk, watching the chaos like a Roman emperor. "You wanted a war," she yelled. "Here's your damn war." She fired. The bullet missed, on purpose. It shattered the glass beside Sombra's face. Disoriented, he staggered. Jonas, from the east tower, put a round through his thigh. Sombra screamed. From below, Tank barreled through the door, crushed 2 cartel shooters against a wall, then bounded up the stairs. Ava reached Sombra first. He tried to crawl. Bleeding. Weak. "You know what I train these dogs for?" she asked quietly. "Justice." Sombra spat. "They're just animals." Ava stepped aside. Echo limped forward, bloodied but alive. Echo sat, stared at Sombra, and did nothing. Ava smiled coldly. Not anymore. She turned and walked away as Echo followed. Sombra would live and be taken. And watched. Because fear doesn't always come from fangs. Sometimes, it comes from restraint. The compound burned. Ava and her team disappeared. Weeks later, a rumor spread in cartel circles of a woman called La Loba, the war wolf, who commanded dogs like soldiers and turned assassins into prey. She returned to her ranch. Not to hide, but to wait, and train the next generation of war dogs. Because in the desert, among dust and silence, one truth remains: predators don't retire. They just change shape.